Well, last time I looked, it wasn't yet 7.
Pardon me?
Last time I looked, it wasn't yet 7.
Yeah, so I had this extra time. I was up a little earlier, and I was doing some reading other than what we were supposed to be doing, and just got away from me. And then I looked at thinking, we've got another 10 minutes. I looked at the clock, and it's like 7 o'clock. I got to run to the computer.
Yeah. All right. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Talking Niagara this morning. And so you got an interesting story there this morning. But let's start with the mundane sidewalks, and the city is going to be providing some assistance in the 2-year pilot project starting in 2026-2027 winter seasons. So I don't think that means they're not doing anything this year, they're doing it next year.
Yes, and by what it looks like, it's going to take them some time to come up with this. Yeah. So basically what they've done is they've made the sidewalks the responsibility of the homeowner to clear that.
Yeah.
That was nothing new to me. I always cleared my sidewalk. Ever since I was a kid, we always cleared our sidewalks for pedestrian traffic. We always dug out our own driveway, all that kind of thing. However,
we have no sidewalks here in my cul-de-sac.
Well, then you're off the hook.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I still clear the road back to the edge of the curb so that people can walk down it.
Yes. However, almost everybody's got sidewalks in the city. Almost everybody's house faces a sidewalk, and it is the house owner's responsibility to have that cleared. Now, obviously, we get a lot of old folk out there. One of the most common causes of heart attack during the wintertime is when an old guy gets out there and starts heaving around big hunks of cold snow. And the reason why that happens is a combination of the cold and the effort that the guy's putting in. Yeah. So it causes a heart attack.
Yeah, yeah.
And
it's not new. It's not new. We've known about that impact for many, many years. In fact, health practitioners have been saying, been putting out ads now over the last couple of months saying you need to actually exercise and warm up and be prepared for snow shoveling, especially if you're older.
Yes.
And the types of exercises they're doing is about forward movement, sliding forward, sliding back type thing.
Yeah, you're going to get an old guy to do that. Yeah, like hell they're going to do that. I'm going to do that? No way. But I don't have to shovel anymore, but I did right up until about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I did all the shoveling and all the snow removal, the house I had.
Yeah.
And I was over 60 and, 65 years old. So you think, well, okay, you're in trouble if you do that. But anyway, it's just going to happen anyway. So, but the rule is, of course, now you have to clear that snow, but there will be 400 lucky people out there, or lucky households, that will get some kind of assistance through the city. It's a $120,000 program, so they say. So if you're, if you're wheelchair bound or something else, and you live in your house and you can't do that, you can apply to the city to have that done, but only 400. When Paul and I went over this in the review, the agenda, I questioned the amount of 400 people. There could be a lot more than 400 people. Do you think?
Could easily. Where'd you get that number from?
It was in the agenda.
No. I'm saying, where did they get the number from?
Oh, I don't know.
No, I get it. You got it from the agenda, and I don't doubt that you and Paul were discussing was factually correct in the agenda. But where did the city get that number from? Because we're a city.
Well, that was our question. Where did that come from? That was the whole point of that. Where did that number come from?
We're a city of older people, more infirmed people. So Admittedly, there's a larger population of older people within long-term care facilities, but there's still many who have their own homes. And people. There's also, you got to take away from that list, though, people like yourself who are lucky that you don't have to go out and shovel up.
Well, yeah, and let me put it this way too. It says here, it's confirmed here in the article right here. Municipal Works. So what we read in the agenda is confirmed here in the article. Municipal Works General Manager Eric Nichols said the sum would cover about 400 applicants. So $120,000 will cover about 400 applicants.
Yeah.
And when I read that, and Paul too, we were thinking, well, how come only 400?
Yeah.
Don't you think there'd
but
be
it's a pilot project, right? Remember, it's a pilot project.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's a pilot project. But realistically, it's going to cause a lot of problems because in the 26-27 winter, there's going to be a lot of people that feel left out, and they're going to be stuck with snowed in. But most people who don't clear, I don't see how this is going to be enforced either. So many people just leave their sidewalk just covered in snow and don't bother shoveling it away. When you are walking down the street, you go to 2-3 houses that have cleared it, and then you got to go around the 2 or 3 that don't, and then you go back on the side.
Actually, it's worse. I've seen some. You end up. I've seen one person cleared it to their boundary line, and the next person has cleared a portion of it, and only a portion of it. But you've got this 3-foot mound that's about 3 foot tall, between 3 or 4 foot wide mound between you and the next path.
Well, that happens. Well, where I used to live, I had a really, really long sidewalk, super long.
Yeah.
About 4 times longer. Let me see, 1, 2, 3. Well, 3 times, at least 3 times longer than my neighbor on either side or across the street.
Yeah.
Because the house was on a pie-shaped lot, so in the front, the back of the sort of the pie part of it was the long sweep that was in front of the house. So I had this big pie-shaped thing, so I had a really elongated sidewalk. Well, I would do all that, but there was a family of women next door to me, and I think they were they're new Canadians or something, but Europeans, but I don't think they got the idea that you got to clear that sidewalk at all. And there were women too. And when I did see them try to shovel their driveway and stuff, it was pretty pathetic. So, I think they're pretty well new to snow. So when I could, I would take my little snowblower and clear out their sidewalk as well.
Yeah.
So the kids have a place to go. And that Crescent, when I was in, there were some kids there. And I was always a little bit worried about them walking on the road, basically. Yeah. And I had a couple of really bad winters there with a lot of snow. So I get that little I was overworking my little snowblower like crazy, and plus shoveling. But there you go. So those ladies that live beside me, they might get fined. You know what I mean? If they didn't clear their sidewalk. Plus, the guy beside me was somebody I knew. On my one side, but his neighbor on the other side had a super big snowblower and would take care of his sidewalk for him.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you have to work in the community, don't you? I'd like to see how this pilot project continues. I'd also like to see how much would it cost to be opening this up to the whole of Niagara Falls. Because I think that's what it is. The 400 homes is only the selected few. They've gone round they're talking about ones they already know that have got seniors in them, etc., right?
Yeah.
All right.
So I don't know. It's kind of a big deal, really. And of course, people are going to feel left out. They're going to complain and everything. And that whole idea of trying to explain to everyone, this is a pilot program. We're just checking it out, seeing if it works. I think it's going to have a big problem, because even though it's a pilot program, there's going to be people who feel that, well, how come you're not doing mine? And they won't get the idea of the pilot program. And then the pilot program might show to the city it's going to be too expensive, too much of a pain in the neck, and they might just withhold the program altogether.
Possibly, but at the end of the day, Mike makes a point. Student voluntary hours should be put towards this idea. Right?
Yes, so, exactly. Yeah.
Right. And Randy makes the point, only 400 because you have to prove that you're disabled. And they're individual 400 homes. Can you not hear? The program is for the disabled. Read the minutes.
Yeah. So
we knew that.
Obviously, obviously.
But we have a larger number of disabled and and elderly in our city than many other cities do.
Yes, and you look around, you see how many disabled cars there are out there with people in their cars. It doesn't mean that they can't walk. Doesn't mean they can't do stuff. It means that they just cannot do stuff like shoveling.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. My mother had a disabled car because she was really old.
Rick asked the question: are they seniors or disabled? It's both.
Yeah. Well, you don't want you're going to target those people that are very disabled first. The wheelchair bound, the people that can't do that, people who have weak hearts or whatever else. There will be some sort of criteria, I think, and I don't know what that is. But obviously, if somebody's in a wheelchair, you're not going to have them push a shovel down there. You know.
Well, if you live in it, if you've got 3 or 4 disabled people all in wheelchairs in one household, then the chances are that that household is going to be one of these participants.
Well, I don't even think you have to go that extreme. It just has to be just about every old person can get I could get a disabled tag myself right now because of all the injuries I've had, the operations I've had, and the problems I still have sometimes day to day. So I can get a disabled tag easily from my doctor. Yeah. But I think I could still push or shovel around. Some days I wouldn't be able to, but others I would, depending on what kind of things flaring up on me at the time. But I wouldn't even go get one. But I could qualify for one easily. So I could go to the city and say, I've got this disabled tag, or parking tag.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I would think, I don't know what the criteria would be, the level of disablement, but if they only have 400, it's going to be the ones that are most disabled.
Yes, sure. Exactly. Right. Okay. Moving on. Border Officers Union are concerned about the use of CBSA's one-touch system that is supposed to automate the processes during the asylum intakes. And they're concerned that by utilizing a system instead of interviewing people, there's something missing here.
Yeah, so the Canadian border officers now, they're saying, look, there's not enough person-to-person contact with asylum seekers, so the officers don't have enough. They have this, what they called low risk asylum seekers. Somehow they figure that out, and they let them. They do a little bit of preliminary checks, and then they let them go to fill out their forms on their own within 45 days. It turns out that about 10% of those people they let go to fill out their own forms don't ever come back. They just kind of disappear into the ether. So the border services people are saying that, look, you use this process, this sort of supposed to be pretty infallible service to get do this job quickly, but they're saying it's not working. Now, I think a lot of people will think of the first thing on board at all is the Canadian Border Services officers are looking for more personnel and worried about being layoffs and all other things like that. So some people may think that, and that's why the Canadian border officers bringing it up.
Obviously, you have to collect a lot of data when you're dealing with immigrants of all immigrants, particularly refugees, because you still have to make a decision on their case, right? So
well, the problem here is they don't make the decision. They let they take their fingerprints, take a picture, and here's this form, fill it out in 45 days. Then what they do is they find that 10% of the people they give that form to just disappear.
Yeah.
Now they're supposed to be the low risk ones. Now you're supposed to be able to identify the high risk ones and be able to interview them more completely. But the border services people are saying these low risk ones, they're not being interviewed well enough person to person where the officers can pick up traits or things that are anomalies, signs of coaching and stuff like that. We've talked about coaching a lot here, how so many people have the same sort of story and from the same country. That kind of thing. We found it was a prevalent thing in the everywhere there's asylum seekers. There's like 3 or 4 standard stories they all seem to be coached with. Now the problem here, of course, is I guess they're trying to save money and speed things up. But I go with the agency itself says, oh, this is not a problem at all. It's not perfect, but there's all kinds of levels of security and all that. Well, I don't believe it one bit, because the Canadian immigration system has been a laughable thing for many, many years. And I remember back in the 80s when they touted Canada's immigration services as the best in the world. Nobody can beat it. We have all kinds of fail safes in it. And it was a matter of weeks later that it was found out that there was hundreds of applications gone missing in Syria someplace through the Syrian, I think it was through the Syrian embassy. All kinds of people got bogus, got this paperwork that gave them an entry into Canada. They did no screening at all, and they couldn't find out where these leaks were coming from. Yeah. How people got this paperwork that was supposed to be so well guarded. Yeah. And, over and over and over again, you have plain toilets all getting stuffed up with passports because people were traveling on coming into Canada with 5 or 6 different passports and stuffing the ones they didn't need anymore down the toilet as they entered Canada, that kind of thing. And Canadian immigration was just silly. For a long time, they went after the low-hanging fruit too, and this was a real problem. We hear, like with the United States and them going after criminals and all that. Criminals are supposed to be focusing on them first. Well, in Canada, when they went after immigrants, the asylum seekers and immigrants that were false, they would pick on the low-hanging fruit, the old ladies and the old men that kind of sneaked in, family members and that. Then they had a lot of problems with crime from people from other countries that were here illegally, and then they started to focus on them. So it was more quality, not quantity. So they started focusing on criminals and getting rid of them. But meantime, they all got in, and they all have found an easy way of getting in. And I think they're still finding easy ways of getting in. I mean, I've talked to asylum guys off and on through work or school or whatever else. I mean, one guy from Cambodia, he said, look, and another guy, a guy from Cambodia said, look, they said they told him he had to guarantee them that he would live in Edmonton or Calgary or something like that for 5 years before he went anywhere else. He agreed to that. They put him on a plane, send him to Calgary. 2 days later, he got on a plane and came right back to Toronto and did exactly what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, and all of everyone else I talked to is the same. I talked to a couple of Mexicans. They pretended to be Guatemalans and came in on asylums that way.
Can I come again?
So they came in with a bunch of Guatemalans when there was the war there, pretended to be Guatemalans, and when they go back to Mexico to visit their relatives, they get the same thing. When they hand over their Canadian passport, the immigration guy looks at them. How in the hell did you ever get this? Right?
Yeah.
he says I was a Guatemalan refugee, and there's a yuck yuck, and away they go. You know, so Canadian immigration has been laughable for many, many years, probably because a lot of it's ideologically driven. And I feel sorry for those people who are really trying to do their job, like these officers here are complaining that the higher ups think they've got a really good system, and the guys on the ground see that it's not working.
Yeah, and clearly with something like immigration, with something like refugees, when you're handling refugees, you've got a lot of data that must be collected, a lot of data that must be utilized for the decision process. But, I think the border officers are basically saying, no, we're the best people to actually do the intakes.
Yeah, they're the ones that can pick up little subtleties and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't get 10% of them running away. As soon as, like, here's your form. Make sure you come back in 45 days.
Yeah.
Or with the form. Oh, sure, I will. Sure. Yeah, I'll be back. 10% of them just take off and flit into the ether.
Yeah.
And then it costs the Canadian government way, way more money trying to track them down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Right, and that's where part of the immigration system has a problem, right?
Yeah, it's just I think they should just give them the resources they need and keep your ideological nonsense out of it.
Yeah,
we do know that anywhere in the West right now, the immigrants that are coming in, migrants are coming in, are largely economic migrants. In among the waves of asylum seekers, there are people who have been treated badly politically. They feel fear for their life and all that, but largely most of them are economic refugees. And the smart ones are playing like they're political refugees. When I was talking to some people from Kenya, they couldn't really tell me what was so bad about the place they came from, but it was bad. I talked to a couple of Colombians. I kind of feel that, things are pretty bad for them too, but I didn't really think it was any worse for them than anyone else in Colombia. So do we take everybody from Colombia? So there are asylum seekers and they get here and they have good stories, but it seems to me the ones that have the most money are the ones that play the game the best. And the real asylum seekers that have been beaten or going to get murdered or whatever else by the governments from where they came from, I think they find it less able to flee to another country more than a lot of the economic migrants are actually people who have a fair amount of money and they're just trying to skip the line to get into the country. Yeah, so there's a lot of problems, and I don't know. I in this case I would believe the officers with boots on the ground way more than I would their bureaucratic. Your bureaucratic.
And the thing is, note the tone of this article wasn't about that they didn't have a right to be here. The tone of the article was that actually CBSA officers are actually better equipped to do the investigating.
Yes, exactly. And I would I would tend to believe them, with guys with boots on the men and women with boots on the ground, much more than I would some bureaucrat with some brand new system that speeds things up.
Yeah. Obviously, the data they collect has to go into a system somewhere. But yeah, but at the end of the day, I would tend to agree that CBS officers would be the ones who would do a better job.
Well, somewhere along the line, they determine a low risk person, and 10% of the low risk persons they let out to bring back their form a little later on disappear.
Yeah.
So they're the low risk. So imagine how many of the high risk, or even if they're identifying the low risk correctly.
Yeah.
If they're low risk, then that would mean that almost all of them would have come back with their paperwork 45 days later, wouldn't you?
Yeah, maybe you forget a day or two, but but yeah.
Yeah, you're going to come back, right?
Yeah, you come back. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're supposed to be low risk, and you're supposed to be one that they've deemed, pretty honest type person that will do the job they do. But 10% of them run away, and then we don't even know how many of the next phase. So some of them may bring back their paperwork and then dash because they've done what they're supposed to do, and it doesn't look good for them, so they take a runner.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Interesting next story. Witchcraft from the Bronze Age to Elphaba, the origin of the witch's hat. And it's interesting because although this article, unfortunately, doesn't cover much from the Bronze Age, but certainly covers the last 5 or 6 centuries.
Yeah, that Bronze Age kind of title was a little bit misleading, if you ask me. And it's kind of late too. I should have put up this article around Halloween, but I just thought it'd be kind of an interesting article for a Friday.
Well, it's as a post-Halloween on a Friday, it's an interesting thing because, in fact, actually, there's a lot of stories about. So there's a new film out called Wicked for Good, which was released yesterday. I think it was no, today. It's so basically it's a witch film, right? Witchcraft film. So the point being is that whenever that sort of thing comes around, that's when you get these types of stories, right?
Yes. Well, the very idea of where did that peaked hat come from? We have our standard image of a witch, and it is a lady with a peaked hat and with a brim. And where did that come from? Now they try to trace the head where
she has a crooked nose.
Well, yeah, she's got a crooked. Not all though, because some of the early depictions of witches were of salacious women, with and yes, because they're supposed to be temptresses. Now, the idea of the old hag on this that comes because hat or no hat, the sort of the widow woman that lived at the edge of the village was also the wise woman who had ideas of how to cure things. People knew herbs and all kinds of herbs and grasses and whatever else. That's been a common thing among women in society all along. My great grandmother remembers her mother going to a fields and took her daughters to fields and identifying what plant did what to fix what. This is for sleeping. This is for toothache. This is and she taught them all the little herbs and grasses and flowers and things that homemade medicine. Well, that's what women did. So the old lady, the old crone at the edge of the village that doesn't have a husband anymore, and the kids are all gone, and she's got a couple of cats for company.
But again, one of the impacts upon witchcraft, so to speak, has always been fictional works. Things like the witches around the cauldron in the tragedy of Macbeth.
Yes, and usually when they depict that again, they will have pointed hats sometimes, depending on who the director is.
Well, I
Now,
don't know
why did
whether.
they have?
Yeah, I don't know whether Shakespeare actually depicted them as pointy hats. I have no recollection of Shakespeare doing so, but it's the cauldron that he was describing, the stirring in the cauldron, right?
Yeah, double boil of trouble, Eye of Newton, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But the idea, though, Shakespeare never left any writing about what was supposed to be on stage, although there was little symbols in his folio and stuff like that other play actors and stuff would recognize as a symbol for a hat or take off a hat or something like that.
Yeah.
So the pointy hat, though, the very first depiction we have of a typical witch, a la Wizard of Oz, with a pointy hat and a brim, comes from 1693. However, that was a very typical headdress of the time, of the 17th century.
Yeah.
Of the 17th century, a woman with a brimmed hat and a conical hat. It was very, very fashionable at different times during this, well, almost throughout the whole 17th century, which is the 1600s.
Yeah.
So you find that, and if you do look at depictions, you find men with hats that are nearly conical at the time.
Well, in fact, actually, during Elizabeth I's reign, there was the wearing of hats, large conical style hats, was actually a fashion in the upper class ladies, particularly.
Yeah, it was.
They wear a lot of black in those days.
Well, when it came to the time of the Reformation, people got more serious and wore more subdued colors, blacks and grays and browns and so on. And the black hat with the peak. But if you go prior to that in medieval times, you'll see the damsels of the court having conical hats without brims. So the whole idea of the brimmed hat, and you can find it over and over again, it was just a stylish thing that women wore. So when you see it in woodcuts and stuff like that, a witch wearing a hat like that, it would be a typical kind of headdress for any woman. You know what I mean? And it does speak here of alewives. At one time, women were the ones responsible for brewing ale or beer.
Yeah. And
they would wear a pointy hat with a brim on it. And some people think the association of women adding ingredients to a brewer, making up beer, adding the right ingredients at the right time kind of thing, would indicate that gave them some sort of idea that they made witches' spells and all that other stuff. However, that's pretty much being knocked down, and I'm glad of it, because I got in an argument one time with a woman who said that it was part of the patriarchy that made women witches, and they made them witches. The women who brewed beer, right? They made them witches so they could take over the business and cut them out of the economy. So I says, well, no, not quite. No, I don't. But you know what?
Well, I get
when people believe what they want to believe, it's hard to argue with them.
I get what the argument is, where the argument comes from, and especially since it was one time seen as a women's domain, actually, to make that beer for their men, right?
Not just for men, but for anyone. The alewives were the people who made it and sold it as well.
There's an interesting picture by Francis Goya, which is 1798, called "The Witch's Flight," which actually depicts a number of, these are male witches carrying a male, presumably non-witch, because he's not wearing a pointy hat, up into the sky.
Where in this?
In this article, yeah.
Oh well, you have to be very careful, of course, because when you think of depictions of witches and stuff like that, they're going to go along with the styles that were there. In the early 1500s, when they had depictions of witches, they had witches that didn't look that bad, but they had wild hair. Their hair was wild, and that was supposed to mean that they were uncompromised, without order, without sort of morality to hold them in place, and they were wildly sexual as well. So the whole idea that they had sex with the devil and they stayed with the devil and all that. This is a really bad thing that began to happen around the middle of the 15th century, or the 15th century would be the 1400s, right?
Yeah.
There was a book called Malleus Maleficarum, and there was other books added to that. One by James I of England, and a few other books that guides into witches. And of course, everybody believed in witches back then, so they must be there. And this is how you find them, and this is what you do with them. And what happened then is you had a European society that was pretty comfortable with people having, magical powers. But once it became clear by some that if you have those magical powers, or if you know how to do those spells, you must be a heretic. You must be in league with the devil. Soon as that idea came into place, then people feared that magician or that old lady at the end of the village. They began to fear them because then they feel it was the power of the devil. And once that happened, the witch hunting thing started in earnest. There'd been witches all along. There'd been wizards, witches, necromancers, all of that. They've been all along. But suddenly it became associated with a heresy with the devil. That means the regular law system that they had at that time, they had a very good law system in much of Europe at the time, where it had developed to the point where that if somebody did a crime, they had to have two very good witnesses with good character, or the criminal had to confess. Otherwise, there was going to be no punishment. But when it came to witches, and because the belief was that they were heretics and in league with the devil, there was no way of getting the truth out of them, so they had to torture them. So, of course, when they tortured them, they're going to tell them anything they want to hear.
Yeah,
because they keep them awake at night, and there's some terrible things they did to them. And of course, at a certain point, they crack and just want it all to end, and then they confess to anything. And once they confess to it, everybody says, "Aha! You see, there really was a witch here."
Yeah, and Gary Wilkins makes the point. Well, you needed the pointy headdress because if you're going to fly on a broom, you needed aerodynamics.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah. Well, there's other things too, like the broom seems to be even an older symbol that predates the pointy hat.
And recast in Adam and Eve was Eve the witch.
You know what? There are a lot of problems with the Adam and Eve story. It goes back long before the Judaic type of tale, because we find it in creation stories prior to Judaism. But the whole idea of the translation of those ancient texts into English, like the rib thing, it turns out that it actually probably mean more like half a body, that God took half of all of Adam and then out of that made Eve and fixed the half that he wrecked, or took off and all this. It's just, well, yeah, I guess maybe, but I think, see, right in the very beginning, you have a woman who starts talking to the devil, the serpent, right? So it's a woman and the serpent is the devil, right? Now you continue that on throughout medieval times, and everyone will tell you, see, it's the women that are more vulnerable.
The other thing, of course,
more vulnerable to the devil than the man is.
And the other thing, of course, is that Eve was, of course, a temptress, wasn't she?
Well, if you've got a naked woman beside you and you've never seen one before, yeah, I would say, yeah, I would say instantaneous. She's a temptress without being known that she's a temptress.
Yeah.
So I don't. Eve is thought to have been weak and given in to the devil, and therefore done what God told them not to do, is bite the apple of knowledge and so on. So their innocence was then gone, and it was Eve's fault. But God created Eve, so he knew it was going to happen. So I don't get it. So God created Eve. He knows she's going to bite the apple because he's omnipresent, everything.
Well,
he knows this is going to happen.
And the point being here is God created Adam and Eve and gave them an apple and told them not to eat it. What the heck do you think they're going to do? Right?
Yeah. It's like
we're not allowed to eat this. Well, let's do it anyway.
That's like putting a candy in front of a kid walking out of the room. Hey, don't eat that candy.
Yeah, exactly.
How are they going to last?
Yeah. Right. It's an interesting story, this, but it's really woven because of this woven because of this new film that's coming along. Didn't really go into the back history of witchcraft. Certainly doesn't go back to the Bronze Age.
Yeah. So the article, it doesn't, but it does dispel myths about alewives. That probably doesn't matter. It's basically just the fact that during the time where the very last big blast of witchcraft and witchcraft persecutions happened in the mid 17th century, like early to mid medicine, right up until about 1700. And those are the times when it was most likely that women of fashion wore a peaked hat with a brim, and that a lot of the alewives and things did the same. Yeah. And just because it was a typical hat that people wore. Yeah. So when they see a cutout with a woman with a peaked hat, it doesn't mean anything at all. It's just a typical hat that a woman might wear at the time. And then that became synonymous with the witch.
Yeah.
In our culture.
It's not to say it's not, there's a story out there that I've read that more or less makes the accusation that the male dominated society didn't like women who were like midwives, women who were doing other medical functions.
It wasn't that. The men and women would go seek the counsel of the wise women that were quite often then identified as witches, but would go seek counsel of the wise women because of their knowledge of herbs and other medicinal plants. It is when you get one of these old ladies that gets a little bit wacky and might be talking to themselves or something like that, and their cow dies. Old Abigail at the end of how strange she is. Well, she looked at my cow. 10 days later, my cow died. I think she put a curse on it. That kind of thing.
Yeah. And of course, it's a lot of bullshit, most of that stuff.
Well, it's out of fear.
Yeah.
It's out of fear and superstition.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when the authorities at the highest level believe it, of course, the average person is going to believe it.
Well, and actually, the Catholic Inquisition believe it.
Well, yeah, they were after heretics of all kinds, but they were after Jews and Muslims that didn't convert to Christianity or only pretended to. So when Reconquista happened in Spain, when the Christian kingdoms overtook Spain completely, they tossed out the Jews and the Muslims. They threw them out. But some were allowed to stay if you wanted to.
They were forced to either convert or go.
Yeah. So a lot of them converted. And of course, a lot of them didn't really convert. Jews and Muslims, they kind of pretended to convert. But those that did most likely did. It was the fact that everybody feared that they didn't, that they were actually pretending. And so they would have these inquisitions. And of course, how to get information out of people is to torture them.
Yeah.
And of course, alongside that, it was the heresy of witchcraft, which meant in their minds that you had an allegiance with the devil. So the Jews and the Muslims that didn't convert to Christianity did not have an allegiance with Christ. They had allegiance with someone else. So they were heretics. And so were the witches, because they had an allegiance with the devil. So it got pretty complicated there.
Yeah.
And the Inquisition lasted hundreds of years.
Well,
the Inquisition followed them to the New World as well.
And the Inquisition is still an official part of the Catholic religion today, because Cardinal Ratzinger was actually the head of the Catholic Inquisition at one point.
Yeah, it's much different from now. It's
clearly
the history of it's very. But remember, in the Protestant lands of Northern Europe, they burned just as many witches, maybe even more.
Possibly, yeah, absolutely. All right. Okay, so moving on. Oh, we got a couple more comments. Going to send you a song about the necromancer. Then we will talk over lunch. Okay. Right.
Okay.
I know 2 witches. They're going to have a meltdown soon. Yeah. Says Rick. Okay, moving on. Trump signs the bill.
I don't know. I think Levitt should be wearing a peaked hat with a brim myself. I don't know.
All right. Okay, moving on. Trump signs the bill ordering U.S. Justice Department to release the Epstein files.
Oh, that's going to be redacted, and there's going to be all kinds of things. Yeah. They're going to withhold the ones with Trump's name in it. They can withhold all files that relate to active criminal investigations or those that are deemed to invade personal privacy. Well, personally, I don't think they're going to have a lot of reveal on Trump. I don't. But what I do think that the reason why, of course, the Republicans were after this for 4 years, just yammering on, how come Biden doesn't release this? Where's this? Kash Patel, Bongino, Bondi, they all railed and railed. Where's that list? Where's that Epstein file? Because they thought it would be mostly damaging to Democrats, and they felt that Biden didn't release them because he felt that they would be very damaging to Democrats. Now, once they got into power and started looking at it and seeing that it was equally damaging to Republicans and Republican campaign suppliers, suddenly they got, oh, well, nothing to see here. We demanded it to be open, but once we opened it, nothing at all. And
I think there's going to be more redacted or not provided than will be provided.
Well, they said that like Biden didn't open up the files because it would be damning to the Democrats, and now they open it up and see that it would be damning to the Republicans. They don't want anything to do with it. But now, I don't know. It's going to be a long time before we really get the truth in there. There's all kinds of little bumps along the way and means by which they can withhold the real valuable information.
Yeah.
Now, a guy like Thomas Massey, he has names and things provided to him by some of the survivors, and he'll be looking over the paperwork to see if those people pop up. There's also a demand to look into Jeffrey Epstein's financial affairs. We find that the banks look the other way a lot on a lot of his more questionable financial dealings, and they will gladly look the other way, like J.P. Morgan and other banking. Anytime big money comes into town and they're going to make money off it, we are not too interested in where this money is going to or coming from, as long as we're getting our piece of the action. So J.P. Morgan's got to open up a lot of its stuff. I don't think that the kind of powerful people that are in here will be able to snowball this thing. I believe you'll get a couple of people on the periphery, like like that Democrat guy that Stumer or whatever his name is.
And probably more revelations about Andrew.
Oh, well, yeah, he's pretty much finished anyway.
Yeah.
He just lied, lie, and it turned on him pretty badly because he couldn't lie enough to hide.
Yeah.
No possible way. And I think Trump was too clever to get mixed up in really young women. I mean, I don't think he would take on women under 18 at least, or probably his taste in women were probably early 20s or whatever. But I don't think that's going to chase him. I think other things that are embarrassing to Trump will come out. His long association with Jeffrey Epstein is not easily explained, and it shows lack of character. But then again, you can find a lot of people who associated themselves with Jeffrey Epstein right up until the time he died, almost, and they
should not have done.
They were wealthy, influential people, either in politics or business.
Yeah.
So it's going to be kind of interesting, but those wealthy, powerful people will put enough blocks in there that any kind of real revelation will take a long time to come out, if it comes out at all.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think the reason why the Republicans were so horny to get this thing out, because they thought it was going to embarrass the Democrats incredibly, found out that, oh no, it's not going to do that. It's going to embarrass us just as much. And that's what they said. Okay, nothing to see here.
And Mick basically says a lot, he's sure that a lot of the names are not in it.
Yeah, a lot of redaction. There's a lot of effort behind the scenes right now. We don't know what the FBI's or the Justice Department instructions are on how to redact this stuff. You do want to protect the innocent. There's lots of people that were associated with Epstein that had really not a whole lot to do with his weirdnesses, because he did surround himself with all manner of people to show what kind of a jet-setting person he was. That's a means by which you can disguise your real operation by making it look like as if like you got Stephen Hawking coming into town. You got all kinds of, you got the UN chief of this or that or whatever else. You can make a big thing about the charities you're supplying. So that's going to attract people to you. And then suddenly everybody realizes that you're just using this as a smokescreen.
And again, you can they can emphasize upon names of people who are dead, like Hawking.
Seriously,
it doesn't change anything.
Seriously, some of the stuff is right out to lunch. Like Stephen Hawking, who has Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, and they're saying that he was a part of a teen orgy, a teen orgy that, like, the guy can't move his eyeballs, let alone get sexually aroused in advanced ALS. I mean, he couldn't hardly move. He could hardly move his arms and legs at that particular time at all. And he's supposed to be in an orgy, a teen orgy. So some of the stuff is just utterly ridiculous.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I mean, they come after Bill Gates. Yeah, he was there, and he should have known better. But he's chasing Epstein down for money for some of his charities. Yeah, that was pretty stupid. And all these other guys, like, was it Larry Summer or something like that? He's asking Epstein for dating advice just a few months before Epstein snuffs himself, or allegedly snuffs himself. So what is it with these people? Why do they associate with a guy like this? I could see them being fooled the first time around, but when he's already been charged and then being charged again, and you still hang out with him?
Yeah.
We see that Ghislaine Maxwell, everything she said to Branch.
I think she was more the ringleader than anything else.
Well,
she was causing Epstein to do a lot of things that he wouldn't have otherwise do.
She was kind of like Hitler's Goebbels, basically. She was the Goebbels type person. Went around and did all the propaganda and got all the people in. It's very interesting. You kind of figure out what she is. She hasn't told the truth at all. When Blanche went there and talked to her, the emails that have recently been released shows that she lied completely to Blanche, and yet she got rewarded by a medium security prison, which is much nicer than where she was.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that Trump's going to kind of squeeze out a pardon for her somewhere along the line. Can't do it yet, but maybe a little later.
Yeah. She's got to serve some time. Yeah. All right, moving on, because we're at the end of the program anyway. Palestinians squeezed as Israel moves beyond the yellow line in Gaza City. Why am I not surprised? This hundreds wounded, even now 30 odd killed.
Yeah, it's just that the Israelis had no intention of following the rules here. They're going to break the rules as many as they can. They've breached the peace agreement many, many times. We don't know on the other side, though. We see massive chaos on the other side. Hamas survives in pockets here and there. You have crime gangs and family clans, and they're all fighting. So the whole thing is it's a breakdown. And remember, there's more than one Islamic outfit there. Yeah. Hamas was the major one, but there were 7 other Islamic fundamentalist Islamic organizations there, each with their little bits of influence. Now you have a complete collapse of power and order. One thing Hamas did was keep order. They had a police force, they had a health department, they had all that stuff. You know, they did the ordinary everyday governing things, but they did have, and that was their civil branch of Hamas. Yeah. And they had their military branch of Hamas. That's the ones that we are most familiar with, attacking Israel and et cetera, and digging tunnels. But the whole administrative part of it has to do with education. It has to do with, anything to do with water or electricity, all the mundane things of life. There was administration for that.
From this article, I see that Al Jazeera is back in Gaza.
Are they in it? Have they got permission to get in there, or are they just using Palestinian?
It's their reporter. It's an Al Jazeera reporter that was actually looking at certain parts of northern Gaza. Maybe they're just reporting after the fact, but
probably they still have to rely on Palestinian reporters. I don't even think there's Israeli reporters in there. The main thing here is the Israeli government has banned all foreign journalism from Gaza. And
it says here, Al Jazeera's Hind Cowdrey was reporting from Gaza City on Thursday.
Yeah, but it'd be a Palestinian that lives in Gaza. I don't think it would be an outside Al Jazeera.
Yeah.
So it would be somebody that was hired by Al Jazeera. But so basically what's happened is Israel will not allow any foreign journalist, no matter how many times the collective journalists of the world say, come on, let us in there. We got to see, we're journalists. That's what we do. Yeah. Free press and all the other stuff. Well, they're not letting them in. And they're restricting they're restricting what they can do on the West Bank too. So they don't want the truth to come out. Obviously, it looks bad for Israel. So, the best way to do that is to shut off the truth, shut off the source of information. But on the other hand, you can't say that the Hamas or any of those other groups that are there are any much better.
No.
They would restrict the flow of information if they could as well. They would. Anyway, what you do have is 2 parties that hate each other, and they can't see eye to eye on anything. And it's time for the rest of the world to come in and divide them and say, you stay here, you shut up, and we'll figure this out. Because obviously can't do it themselves.
Yeah. All right. So I think it's time to say goodbye.
Yes. And without further ado, I bid you adieu. We talked about Gaza there and the continuous encroachments and breaking of the ceasefire by Israel more than anything, over and over and over again.
400 times.
Yeah, 400 times. And another 32 people here, another 25 over there, another 80 over here. Kids, women, everything. They cross the yellow line. They do all these things. This tells you that the U.S. has no power over Israel at all. It is supposed to be Trump's peace plan, but they're just slapping Trump around. Shut up and give me some more missiles. Yeah. Okay, I'll sign this peace deal. Now get the hell out of here and give me some more missiles. Shut up. Slap. And then then they get Trump coming over. Well, please pardon Bibi Netanyahu. Please pardon Bibi Netanyahu. And they just sell him. Shut up. We'll do what we want. Slap. Give me some more guns. And that's what Trump does.
Yeah. All right.
He's got to find a backbone. He's got to come down on them.
All right. So, everybody, thank you for being here this week. And Dave?
Without further ado, I bid you adieu. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye.